Hi, my name is Johan Eriksson. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Appivo, and this is the first in a series of tutorials where we'll teach you how to create software with the Appivo platform. In this tutorial, we'll just cover the basic building blocks of an application, and in the others, we will go into the depths of everything that I mentioned here. Now, let's log on. You can see here that I have quite a few applications. Let me edit one of the simpler ones, this one called TMR. It's an application for forklift operators, and this is the main dashboard of your application inside the builder part of the user interface. We can see that the application has a name. It's called TMR. Its default language is English, and we have a description, an app for TMR forklift operators. We can also see that the owning organization of this application is Appivo. There are a total of 2 tenants subscribed to it and a total of 9 users. More importantly, down here we can see what the application itself actually consists of. It has 8 data models, it has 8 business rules, 7 related actions, 13 queries, 2 user roles, 21 web views, and 9 mobile views. And it also has 15 resources. This is media resources, could be images, videos, audio files. So now, if we look on the left pane here, we see 4 sections: Logic, User Interface, IoT, stands for Internet of Things, and Settings. Starting from the top with Logic, we have the perhaps most important part of your application, the data model. The data model tells the system what information your application is managing. In this case here, we can see that this application deals with wagons, train sets, customers, trains, trucks, container activities, and containers. And also there's a concept of a user. The arrows here tell the system how these models relate to each other. Each model represents some type of object or activity in the physical world. Well, it might not be in the physical world, but something that your application deals with. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of this. We'll do that in a later video. So we'll be moving on. Rules. Rules are essentially triggers. They tell the system when to do something. So if we look at an example, let's take this first one, create container. It is a rule that triggers when data changes. Specifically, it triggers before a container is created. And there's also an additional criteria here telling when it should fire. But it's important to understand that the rule itself doesn't do anything. It just tells the system when to do something. The actual something is the action. In this case, this rule triggers an action called set stored since. If we look at this one, we can see that this is a script action. A script action lets you run code. Code can, of course, do exactly anything. In this case, we see that this executes a few numbers of JavaScript down here. I'm not going to go into the details of this either. We'll do that in a later tutorial. But it's important to know that actions are things that can happen and they are triggered by rules. An action can make changes to data, it can make callouts to external systems, or it can send emails, push notifications, or emails, or essentially anything you like. If we continue down the list here, we have queries. Queries are essentially reports. They're a way of getting data out of the system, reading information that is stored in the database that you have created. In this case, this query queries for arriving trains. So it looks at the train model and it filters out all the trains that have a status equaling scheduled, and it sorts the result on the arrival attribute in a descending order. Same with this. We'll not go into the details, but it's important for you to know that queries is the way to get information out of the system, and we'll look at later how that can be used. Roles tell the system what type of users the application has. In this case, we see that this application has admin users and forklift operators. If we look closer at a forklift operator, we can see here in this matrix, we can see all the data models of the application, and we can see the basic privileges of an application. So here we can see that a forklift operator, for instance, is allowed to create containers, and he can also read containers. He is not allowed to update or delete them. Equally, he is allowed to read customers, but he cannot create them, he cannot update them, and he cannot delete them. Your application can have as many user roles as you like. And now let's move to templates. Templates are essentially a way to format data that you're taking out of your system. It could be for creating a custom HTML report, or it could be for creating an XML data sheet for an integration that you need to do, or anything like that. We'll take a look at an example here. This is just quickly an HTML document, and we can edit the document in source mode. We can plug data into this document by using handlebars, which is an open source library for templating that you can read about, and we'll get back to that in a later tutorial. You can also see the HTML in WYSIWYG mode here, so you get a closer look at what it will actually look like in real life. And that's all you'll find under the logic section. If we move to the user interface part, this is what you would expect. This is where you edit the UIs of the application. We can see here we have one mobile interface with a set of views, and we have a web interface with another set of views. And we also have media resources. An application can actually have as many different UIs as you like of different kinds. So we could add yet another mobile interface if we wanted to. And why would you do that, you might ask? Well, we'll get back to that later, but it has to do with if you want to map different UIs to different user roles, etc. So if we take a look at the mobile editor, it looks like this. Now let's have a quick look at one of the views here. I'll double click on this one, and we can see that this is a form. It has a label up here, it has 3 input fields, and a button for submitting the form. We will of course look closer at this in another tutorial, so let's skip ahead and look at the web-based interface. This works exactly the same way. Click on one of the forms here, and we can see here that this view consists of a data grid and a text field and a select and some labels and some buttons over here. And just like with the mobile interface, I can drag and drop widgets and just drop them on the canvas. Lastly, we have the media page where we can upload image and videos and audio resources that I would like to use in my application. And with that, we've covered pretty much all of the basics. There are quite a lot more settings here under settings. You can add languages if you want to make your application available in multiple locales. You can add configuration parameters. You can add custom mobile plugins, and you can define application features. We'll get into all of that later on. So nothing you need to worry about right now. One important thing that you may want to know is for test driving your application, you can always click on this play button down here, which will open up your application in a different window. And here's our application, and we can start playing with it, like so. All right, hope you enjoyed this first look at the appivo platform, and if you're interested, please check out the following tutorials. See you soon. Bye-bye.